Okay. Hello everyone and welcome to the 0.6.1, no, 0.6.1, yes, Friday stream. We've got a few developers here, starting with Deuce, one of their game designers, Hira Lanin, our lead programmer, and Axana, one of their other programmers, and of course me, the lead game designer. Today we'll be talking about the latest release in Frythe and what we've added, and where will we be going in the future.
Yeah.
Game designers, Hira Lanin. So I suppose from here.
Sorry, did you ask a question? I cut off a bit.
No, it's quite alright.
Okay.
So now that we're live, I suppose we ought to take this time to discuss what we've added in the latest release. I'll start with the programmers. I know Hira Lane has done a lot of work on the back end, getting everything a little more prepped. If you'd like to explain that.
Yes, I was a bit surprised how little actually ended up in the patch notes because, well, I took multiple weeks to work on things that aren't like visible at all. Things like being able to now see the controller buttons in the key rebinding menu and other stuff like that, like the Organelle upgrades framework backend is now done, so it's easy to specify new upgrades. And of course, I added the Cilia pull upgrade as an example how it works.
And it's a pretty exciting upgrade. I really like to encourage people to experiment with it. I've already seen some interesting tactics developed with it, even if they're a bit on the exploit side of things.
Yeah, I was about to say that exploits, you mean.
Yeah. It's not a bug, it's a feature. Now, unfortunately, that's about the biggest new feature that people have to play with in this release. The rest of it's a lot of miscellaneous fixes and such.
Yeah, we had quite a few new programming contributors who fixed some small things, but many of the other team members had, I assume, school or other real life stuff, so they didn't contribute that much this release.
It was exciting to see all the smaller contributors speak up. And I felt like I saw a lot more discussion in the Discord, the community Discord, for people who are, taking initiative and wanting to fix up the smaller things. So that's a good thing in the long run, even though our big time developers were a bit more busy this release cycle.
Yeah, I hope we see some of those people make contributions in the near future.
Yeah, hopefully.
Even if they complain about our style guide, our code style or some non-optimal code, those are still welcome.
Well, I know we originally intended to have a few more features, such as the unlocking system, which we not really planned to implement, but we're certainly aiming for that.
Yeah, now that we are on the 0.6 roadmap to micro completion, that's one of the next things to be done. It will be pushed back to the next release as no one had time to work on it. And well, I guess it might get pushed back again because as we had the poll on fixing performance stuff as a high priority. The next release is not going to see many new features coming from me.
The next update, we have decided to focus on a bit of an overhaul on the Fry's performance.
Well, that and I will be working on the prototypes a bit before that because I've neglected them for a bit, so I want to push those forward a bit again.
That's some interesting news. Well, suppose we do have some more upgrades to look forward to. We still got a few designs we need to work on. If anybody in the community has some ideas on what they'd like to see, by all means, please make a post on the community forums and we'll have a look. I'd love to see the ideas people have for our new system, which can greatly expand the amount of customization options on your cell.
Yeah, and please post feedback on the release on the dedicated release thread if you have something to say about it.
Yeah, a lot of the upgrades, a lot of discussion will be focused on balancing upgrades once we have ideas for upgrades, and those will trickle in bit by bit. So a lot of input will be very helpful for making sure that no one upgrade is too, I guess, extreme or buggy almost.
Yeah, one of the goals of the 0.6 releases is complete combat balancing.
Yeah, and then we have some ideas on the dev forums for those. So if anyone wants to check those out and provide commentary, community, then it will be very beneficial.
Is anyone taking YouTube chat questions?
Yeah, I'm writing them down.
Okay, I'm seeing at least one really good point I want to cover at some later on
But
in
there
the
is
stream.
also the question thread as well.
Yeah, we'll get to those.
Alright, well, is there anything else we would like to bring up about this update? Suppose we did have that performance benchmark test.
Yeah, those have been pretty interesting. Interesting to see those results.
Yeah, give us more feedback on that for sure.
It seems that I've been a bit overestimating maybe the average hardware people will be using to play Thrive.
Huh.
Well, I ran the benchmark today on my older computer, which I use for Windows testing, and I got like less than half the score than I get on my primary desktop. So that was a bit worrying to me.
I use a decent laptop, but it's not like any sort of gaming laptop, and performance can be an issue sometimes, but it's not horrible.
Yeah, I picked the 150 microbes for the benchmark first phase based on the fact that it still performed pretty well, and that is pretty close to the well, I think it's a bit higher than like the default spawn limit usually is, so that gives some kind of almost like close to worst case microbe stage performance. So if those numbers look good on some computer, it should be fine to play the game, but seeing a lot of people posting really low numbers, it's always a bit worrying.
Well, which is why we're focusing the next update on trying to fix that.
Yeah, hopefully that the idea I have about that will work fine, but well, there's no way to know before it's like halfway done, before it can actually be fully tested once all of the parts are working.
Or we wait until Godot 4 in 5 years.
Well, actually, it might come out this year, but it probably doesn't improve things that much.
Did we need some part of it for 3D membranes or something, or am I mistaken?
I think it added like compute shaders or something, which can be used for some really good performance optimizations in like generating a lot of stuff.
Okay, yeah, that might be important down the road.
Well, I think it might be usable for like the convolution surfaces, but I don't think we can fully drop the OpenGL rocking people, so we'll need to also write a CPU implementation anyway, so it just increases our workload, but people whose computers can take advantage of that could have much faster loading screens later on in the game.
Noted.
Actually, I'm much more waiting for Godot 3.6 as that adds the ability to make our tab buttons centered again properly.
So what's the status on our remote support? Controller support. Not bad.
It's kind of half playable right now. Still needs quite a bit of work. Especially the editor is completely unusable, but you can kind of like move a micro around now with it.
It's getting there.
I guess we have just about covered the current release now. So maybe we move on to the questions part of the stream.
Yep, if there's nothing else anyone would like to add.
So first I'd like to announce that the music bot is back.
Yeah.
I think last stream we didn't have the music bot, or maybe two streams, as the previous bot was brutally murdered. So now we have our own self-hosted bot, which hopefully will keep working for a long time. Okay, I'll put up the priority questions first.
Alrighty.
I'll copy and paste the stream questions after we go through those questions, and we can alternate between those and the regular questions.
Sounds good.
So I'll start us off. So first we have Doom Lightning. In fact, that appears to be the only person who asked any questions in priority. So let's get started. Apart from the radioplasmid and the bioluminescence organelle, we plan to add more organelles. And I'd personally say not necessarily plan. I know we do have some concepts for axons and via fibers and such, but
Yeah, I
it's
think
hard to say if that's necessarily planned.
I think those two are the only ones on the official roadmap, so those are the only guaranteed ones. And of course, I think some might argue that some organelle upgrades will sort of be like new organelles as they change the functionality enough.
Yeah, one such case would be the the hydrogenosome. Because in reality, it has evolved from the mitochondrion, but its functionalities so standalone that it could very well be its own part.
I made the thread with like a list of a lot of combat focused external parts we can add, but those are still requiring discussion, and they're not planned officially yet. So upon further review, if we say that we could benefit from more abilities and thrive, then we should implement those, but they're not planned officially per se.
We'll have to dig into all that sometime.
Yeah.
Alright, moving on. What is the biggest problem you are currently having to deal with, both game related and theory related? Or something else entirely? Okay, so the biggest problem with development. Definitely, personally, I think would be the performance and just general construction of the 3D stage. Kirlane and Nady able to answer this better?
Well, I think the usual is that we don't have enough people working on the game. We recently have hit the milestone of having 600 open issues. So I think we have now dropped below the 600 mark as I took care of a few of them, but there's 600 things that are waiting for people to just do them.
Well, if you see the positive side of things, just look at the number of closed issues as well. It's just like it seems also that we just tend to open them more and more. So I don't know. I know that Game Dungeon did a few graphs on Thrive's activity. I wonder, like, it would be interesting to see how our issues lists evolves through the time.
Well, yeah, we definitely have a ton of stuff that is already done. In fact, I think we have more done things than still to do things, but of course that's still only like the short-term micro-state stuff. But well, I guess another positive way to look at it is that there's 600 different things to work on. If something else doesn't seem interesting to you, you might see something else that want to fix.
There sure is no reason not to contribute, given how many things are done. Surely everyone will find their place where they want to work on. As for what was the most difficult lately, so it was purely on my side, but I have a PR that tries to implement a filter, and I'm trying to get something that is both intuitive to players that are not used to logic, I mean formal logic, and that runs smoothly for selecting everything, that is enjoyable within the GUI. So I've rewritten this PR 3 times. So I would say this is the main challenge I've encountered since I started on Thrive.
Yeah, that certainly has been pretty interesting, trying to make it easily approachable but still able to filter almost anything.
The good news is I think I've succeeded in doing that, but now I need to clean the code. And I haven't had much time to do it, but I should come up with something for the next version. Hopefully. Fingers crossed.
Okay, we'll look forward to it then. One more thing I wanted to say was that right now in the development I'm finding it pretty difficult to try to balance all of the short-term features and bug fixing, and of course that new big performance-related rewrite of quite a lot of the game with working on the prototypes, because I still have this idea that if only we got all of the prototypes done that would definitely show something to the people who say that Thrive can never succeed. So I still really want to get that done. But once again, my time is not infinite, so that constrains how fast all of the things I need to be working on can get done.
You're always in need of more help from proactive developers. Got a lot of work to do.
So send in applications.
I'm saying that even if you're not at ease with programming, just reaching out to people who might be able to help us, who are themselves at ease with programming, or just trying to do something with it, is also useful. So, like, what we need is to find more programmers, especially developers in general, but specifically programmers, and that's something all of you can help us with.
And if nothing else, just outreach, like posting on forums where there might be eyes to look at Thrive could really help out, because we tend to have little booms sometimes where, you know, a video gets posted or a post gets uploaded and we get a good amount of people joining. So that in itself could help a lot.
Well, I suppose we'll move on now. So, next question. In light of approaching the macrocell and multicellular stage, do you think you can or will be used to create spontaneous movement behaviors like in the Rain World game, in order to simulate simulated movement in the environment? If not, can you tell how you were going to do it differently or why there's still no idea? They're asking how we plan to use movement, if it'll be... Oh, what's the word?
Procedural?
Yes, procedural or static.
I know Nuns talked about this a bit, where he said it'll be a lot of math. It's a pretty challenging thing, but he has ideas related to it. And he said the issue is, I think the big issue for us to decide is how to map out skeletons for the animation, and from there I can kind of follow.
I did try to address that with the limbs mechanic versus the normal body parts. I'm not sure how well that plays out. No
Yeah.
graphics programmer.
I think overall this is just in the category that there's still no idea because it's so far away that we can't even foresee the issues yet because we aren't at the previous step yet. So we can't see multiple steps ahead of what we might need to do. But something like procedural animation based on some kind of algorithm to determine what are legs, how can they move.
Yeah.
For the prototypes, my idea is that basically no, there's not going to be any animation at all, so everyone is just going to slide around, so that's my solution for the short term.
Like slugs.
Well, more like T-posing models just going around on a flat plane.
A sort of pretty
enough.
compelling environment. Alright, well, next question. Regarding adapting to the environments, how do you think to represent them in light of the fact that there is a conversation around this topic? Was it in writing or some representation or something else entirely? Huh?
That was the topic of dev forums recently.
I still don't understand the question. Like,
Me neither,
this is
to be
basically
honest.
just like Auto already considers the patch conditions when deciding
Like
population numbers.
Like environmental tolerances, I think, are the focus of the question.
Well, I think
Not
those
sure exactly what
those
they
should
want to
also
know.
be added to the Auto Evo. So if you
Yeah.
aren't tolerant of the environment, you get massive penalties in the auto evo.
Yeah, and when it comes to the mechanic itself, interacting with it, everything that we have recently is on that one dev forum in that talks about environmental tolerances. So if it's not on there, then we haven't figured it out yet. So bring up details that you would like us to address, and then we'll try to consider them.
All right. Well, next question. How far do you think you could add new things to the cellular phase according to alternative biochemistry or alternative environment if you happen to have a plan? If not, do you think mods are able to add something like that? We probably won't be adding any alternative biochemistry for some time.
But there's been some discussion that we could add silicon-based life. It wouldn't be that difficult, but it would be non-log starting option.
I don't know enough about it to really say.
Well, I mean, I remember the previous discussion a bit, and basically I said something like that. Well, I mean, we can add it, we can modify the compounds a bit, and maybe tweak some organelle processes and efficiencies or something like that, but it wouldn't have that much effect. It would be like a new coat of paint on the game, so
yeah,
it could be added for some extra flavor, but it's not on the main path of the game from start to finish, so it's not a high priority, and it would be non-log as well. And as for modding, the game is open source, so the most extreme mods could literally take all of the source code, modify like everything, and re-release that as it's like thrive with this one change, which is huge. So, I mean, for an open source game, I think by definition modding could do literally anything. And even in this case, I think, well, most of the existing stuff, I think, would be enough to make a silicon-based life mod. It would be pretty difficult because there's some pretty key features missing, but it's technically possible by overriding all of the organelle data, etc., and then hooking into variety of the game methods to data bunch of stuff. Depends on how in-depth the mod wants to be.
Alrighty, I believe that's a good enough answer. Final question from Dude and Lightning. In your own opinion, do you think that the pace of building the game satisfies you? Or are there a few things missing before it satisfies you?
Yeah, that's the question. I'll say, from a game design perspective, the only thing that frustrates me is the graphics, how the pace of that. But programming itself, I can't really have any complaints about that. It's doing good work for what resources we have, in my opinion. But we could always use more help. So, like I said, apply.
Yes, I do feel like we really, really need a nice adjustment to the environment of the game right now. There's a lot of cool features to add, but it requires a tool set that not many other programmers have.
Yeah. The pace of development in Thrive, I like how it's picked up generally over the past 2 years, about. So that's something I'm pretty thankful for.
Yeah, which is pretty much thanks to the community. First the Patreon and then the Steam release have been absolutely awesome to see that much support. And
Yes.
now that I'm working full time, I started last month, so I have even more time to spend on Thrive than last year.
Yeah, hopefully good things continue from that.
And I'm hoping that in like a year or two, when I've completed all of the prototypes, and if hopefully mostly wrapped up the microbe stage, we are going to be in a really good position to say that the first stage is complete. We have the skeleton of the entire game. We can go full steam ahead, starting from the second stage onward.
Yeah, that would really be healthy news for the project.
Alrighty, well, that was our priority questions.
Yep. Now,
Thank you, Dune Lightning.
yes, I think last time we also got just one priority question, so just a reminder that VIP patrons get to make these priority questions. You're interested for the next release stream.
I copy and pasted some of the community questions or chat questions.
Oh yes, this spike question. I saw this and I wanted to talk about this first. So first of all, as we are using Godot and their physics engine integration, we can only access the information that Godot provides. So actually, when porting the game from the custom engine to Godot, I actually had to remove the code that calculated how far a pilot had hit inside something. So at that point, it just became if a pilot hits something, it does damage. When previously it was how far inside something the pilot managed to hit, which determined the damage. But now with the game rewrite, I think it would be possible to make it so that the pilot once again calculates how far it has penetrated into another physics object to determine the damage. So that kind of implicitly will take the hitting speed into account.
I see. Explains a lot about why the pilot is so unbalanced. Well, I suppose we'll flip between the community forums questions and the stream questions.
Yeah, let's go there next. I think we should take one question in a post or maybe two at once, or if there are quick ones.
Alright. So, let's start with Thunder's question. I've been seeing the intercellular matrix being discussed in a dev forum. Do you have any plans how it could probably work in-game? If I'm not mistaken, that's basically just connecting the cells visually.
Yeah. Game Dungeon sadly couldn't make it to this stream, so we don't have really anyone to comment here other than say that, yeah, we want some kind of graphics to fill in the gaps between colony members, or like deform the membranes to fit together better or something like that. So
You know, I was gonna say this somewhere. I don't know where, but I always found the question. I mean, I get the question, but you know, and if you look at pictures of very simple multicellular organisms, you know, a lot of them they're not really squished together. Like for example, I'm copy and pasting this one. You know, they're not really squished together. Almost, they're very connected, but it's not like they're like deforming very. So besides like better math for determining, okay, making sure everything's close together, I don't think there's like that much of a need for things to be like these jelly balls almost, you know?
that's pretty interesting, actually.
Because a lot, you know, cells. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. Oh, no, I thought you were gonna say something.
Oh, no.
I was gonna say like, you know, cells, they're not like super squishy all the time, you know? They tend to want to keep their shape just to make sure everything is osmo regulated. I don't know if there's a more specific verb than that. So it's not like they're gonna be like jelly beans squishing together, you know?
You typically see that more in the skin cells and bodily cells of macroscopic organisms.
Yeah, yeah. It's not like every cell is a very, very amoeba-like.
All right. Let's see.
I think the
Next
next two questions are basically, will we get like nucleate plasmid or then some conjugal nuclear or macronucleus things in the game? And I think some of these seem, or I think we discussed some of the ideas before that you would need to place something first and then convert it into a nucleus or something. That could happen, and maybe some of those other things could be nucleus upgrades or something, but I don't think any of these are like super planned right now.
Yeah. I know the plasmids and such have been discussed pretty, and there are different amount of concepts, such as the old like protein slots system. That was a big one in that. That's basically your storage system for those.
Yeah, or something
Other than
like
that,
you get free organelles from other bacteria by interacting with them or something.
I'm not sure if we have any current up-to-date plans involving the plasmids.
Yeah, at least we don't have any finished plans that were accepted to be in the roadmap, so
I don't really see a need to implement that level of detail as of now. Maybe if we determine once we, have a more complete picture of the microbe stage that we could benefit a bit more from, I don't know, maybe more progression, then maybe, but I don't think there's much of a need as of now
yeah,
for those.
I agree. This should be left towards the end of the microbe stage development to see if there are still like complexity of the game left to spend on some extra features.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Joshua Orders has asked, multicellular, when?
The roadmap says estimate 2 to 3 years, I think, right?
Well, the roadmap doesn't have those estimates, but that's about right. Of course, if you accept prototypes, then you could say that like 6 months ago or something like that already.
Oh yeah, you're ready.
Yep. It's pretty hard to quantify, of course, due to the nature of their team. Once again, plug in and say, join the development team, please, and you will have multicellular faster. Moving on, we have Ivan Blue. What happens if your species is incapable of progressing into the stages after awakening?
Like plants?
Yeah, I suppose they're asking if you become a plant or any other kind of evolutionary dead end, in which case we don't really have a concrete answer, but for now it's just, well, you hit a dead end.
Yeah, the same answer for the people who want to play on like Snowball Earth or something like that. Are going to get stuck there at some point and not be able to advance towards the main path in quotes of the game.
Yeah, we'd want to make it clear though to the player if they're progressing in a setting or a playstyle that isn't very long term in terms of completing all the stages.
Definitely for usability we need some kind of warnings that you are going to get stuck somehow. I already jokingly planned some kind of warning in the prototypes for when you are advancing too far while underwater.
Oh yeah.
You're becoming a vegetable. Is this okay?
Okay, or cancel.
Alrighty. Next up, we'll answer the questions from Tadat, who has 3. Thirst, prokaryotic civilization.
No.
I think I know what they're talking about. So a while back there was a prokaryotic civilizations thread on the developer forums, but I believe that was like a mistranslation or misunderstanding because they were talking about prokaryotic colonies, as in a cell colony, and not an actual civilization.
Yeah, I almost had a migraine.
But yeah, it is true that prokaryotes are capable of forming colonies in a pretty similar process to eukaryotes. We haven't really gotten around to planning that out in terms of progress or anything, so not really much I can add. I'm thinking about maybe some kind of simple form of it that allows for limited cooperation with other cells, but probably won't nearly be as complex as the eukaryotic variant. But we'll just have to see and talk about that when the time comes.
Yeah, I think we need to define better the balancing for colony binding in the first place with eukaryotes, and then maybe better determine how progression will work, so that
Most certainly.
we'll still probably have it be like, oh, get 5, for example, 5 cells, and you become multicellular. But you won't just be able to like put the binding agent now and then do that the next turn. So we'll see with that conversation in the future.
All right. Next question is, will it be possible to create special services at society stages for various purposes to combat terrorism and so on? Hard to really say at this stage of development.
Yeah, will we go that deep? I think we'll probably have some kind of, at least some kind of like system for having different like
resource
areas
distribution in different ways.
Or something like that, so you can divert resources to some area or another. But I guess we'll see in the future how in depth all of the new developers will want to make the society states once we are there, because we've seen, or basically every future stage I've seen that some people are really interested in it and said that they'd join as developers if we were already that far. So
I'd say that's like the society stage is probably more my area of expertise for what I study, but again, we have no idea. So there's no in my head, if it's beyond the aware stage, then we have absolutely no idea what we're gonna do with it yet. So
well, there's some kind of rough outline for how all of the stages fit together, but any specifics is going to be like, we'll see when we get there if that fits the game.
Yeah, but we can I feel like we can kind of guess more what the macroscopic, multicellular, and the aware stages will be based on our micromechanics.
Yeah, definitely.
Then it'll be a lot harder because we don't have any of those mechanics implemented yet. So,
alrighty, moving on. Mars Sali has asked, is bioluminescence a thing now? No. It will be as soon as we can figure out how to implement it in a meaningful way. I still have it on the to-do list. It's been there for years now. I still don't know.
Yeah,
I will find a way.
And then the next step is to wait for a programmer to come and do the feature. So it will take quite a while.
I remember Maxonovian brought up an interesting point of how, how will that work? Because the original concept had it like, oh, you put down the luciferase, and then give you light in the abyss. But if we're considering the fact that cells don't have eyes, most of them, I wonder how that'll work.
Well, we give the cells eyes.
I guess so.
Just like some other game.
Which we will not need.
Alrighty, moving on. Let's see.
I think I can answer the last chat question we still had from Septagram about does the musical drive logo exist in the game? And the answer is that it does not. I made it specifically for the music bot by mashing together two files. I don't think I put it in the Drive repository even, so it's not in the game anywhere. I think it could be used for something, but not currently.
Thank you. Next question. I took a username is asked, how far are you planning to take the initial prototypes for every stage?
Another question for me. So I think I've answered this once again before. But basically, I want to keep them very simple so that I can make them in like a year. So for if you compare the current like macroscopic prototype, it's going to be very similar to the finished version of the prototype already. So like it's going to be really rough. There's not going to be like almost any gameplay or anything. Visuals going to be really simple and like all of that kind of unpolished stuff. So hopefully that gives some idea. And I noticed that I think we skipped the last question from Tabat.
Did we?
Yeah, the third question.
Oh,
I think
we did. My bad.
I think, yeah, this is pretty simple to answer that. Once a stage is officially complete, like the official focus moves on to the next stage, and we'll discuss that primarily and try to push forward that stage. But that doesn't mean that no one is allowed to change the previous stages at all. We'll still accept making changes to the previous stages, but I think all of the current team members will be a bit burnt out on the previous stage once we complete it. So it's going to see a lot less stuff done on it once it is complete. But that doesn't mean that someone who really wants to see something new added or fix some problem or something, like we'll definitely still be fixing bugs in the microbe stage, even once we are doing the finishing touches on the ascension stage. I think that answered 2 questions. Did we have more chat questions?
Yep, we're coming in now. One question from Derpinator and one question from Joshua Ordaz. I refuse to see it.
Yeah, everyone is scarred for life. In fact, actually, the community Discord recently got a new bot feature, which monitors when that is when those topics are discussed, and it keeps a counter of how many days since the last discussion of that. And I think so far we've seen something like only 2 or 3 days. So that's pretty bad. And also it says the unofficial Drive release date, which goes back 1 year each time those topics are mentioned. So yes, everyone is scarred for life because of that.
Yeah, we don't talk about it anymore.
Anyhow, Derpinator asked, what if organelles become cheaper after your first one of the type? For example, what if you buy your first mitochondrion for 90? You buy a second one for 15. Whoa, that's a big discount.
Yeah, it is.
I've considered it quite a few times. I'm not entirely confident on it as a feature, but it does introduce an interesting aspect of kind of encouraging people to stay on a certain path and not deviate unless they need to. It also feels kind of forced.
I think the closest thing to what's a fancy term for this, I guess, like original cost of organelles will be in like the unlock conditions and the endosymbiosis once that gets implemented. But as to the, I mean, I can see discounts working, but not like first-time discounts being so much more expensive than future organelles.
I did have a concept for that, at least for the eukaryotic organelles, as like an alternative back when we were still discussing the shoot, stuck on tip of my tongue, the endosymbiosis mechanic, but I'm not really so sure about that now.
I think we've have a decently solid endosymbiosis concept base to work off on. And I think that the whole complex one of like having editors inside of editors inside of editors is
No,
definitely
that
right
was
now.
that was too far. I will say that was taking it too far.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see the refactoring from removing all of the organelles and making everything work with dynamically generated organelles as a nightmare kind of refactoring that reworks so much of the game that might as well throw out all of the microbe code. Almost.
Just keeping layers upon layers of hexagons in different editors. You edit the protein structure inside of your organelle. You edit the parts of the organelle to determine its function, and then you edit the cell, which is in turn edited for your organism, which is yeah, that'd be too far.
Yeah, it kind of is already in the prototypes that you edit the individual cell types and then you place those cell types.
Yeah, and that should be about as far as we go.
Yeah, if we also have the organelle editor, that would be one more layer on top of that.
Yes, one too many.
And then the life chemistry editor, so that you can make silicon-based life, would be one more.
Let's do it.
Alright. Joshua Orders said the devs promised we could have sentient plants. We did not. But they did say no underwater SIDS. We did.
Yeah, we said no to both. And I saw someone say that we promised plant gameplay at some point. That's still a promise that at some point we'll make plant gameplay work. But absolutely no sentient plants are getting in the game on my watch.
Alright, next question from Mr. 42. Will there be a eukaryotic organelle that can generate ATP by eating iron? And it would be non-lock, but I'm gonna be honest, I've kind of been contemplating having one as a non-lock option. But I would first have to see if that's actually theoretically possible, if there's some kind of limiting factor that prevents it from existing.
I would suppose that it would probably exist. But like, well, once again I bring up the point that it was purely not implemented to make the game a bit different for the eukaryotes.
Mm-hmm.
But at this point, like if someone really wants to do that, they can like implement that feature and make a pull request, and I won't immediately deny it based on not allowing that. So this is purely, I think that there's no one with enough interest to make this happen.
It shouldn't be too hard, since I mean all we really need is a model for it. Everything else is kind of already there.
Yeah, you'd be actually surprised how quickly you can get people to make a model if you show a screenshot with a white cube in it. At least once we release that, then surely we can get someone with some graphical talent to actually make a model.
Alright, next question. Will there be a modification for the flagellum that allows to increase speed of getting phosphate and ammonia by filtering water? Don't know about that one.
I think the closest thing to that would be our concepts for like a surface area to ratio or to volume ratio, which still needs more discussion for being like considered a legitimate upcoming feature.
Well, from a technical standpoint, giving like 10% area boost to absorption from Cilia upgrade would be pretty easy to add, but how much that would add to the game then?
Yeah, that's a game from the game design. I wonder how useful that would be.
Now that I think about it, there are structures in plant roots that behave basically just like that. I'm trying to remember what it's called. You know, it's like the hairs on a root.
Yeah.
So it might actually be a thing. Still, something to discuss and think about later on.
Absorbent hairs. That's what they're called.
Huh. I would have expected something a little more fancy, like
Yeah, me too.
like I don't know, substrate fibrils or something.
Yeah, well, simplicity helps.
Alright, moving on. When do you plan to continue work on macroscopic? I believe here Elena just answered that not too long ago.
Yeah, but well, I guess I could say that maybe in like 2-3 weeks, maybe a month. That would be the latest when I can resume. I've got a few smaller issues on my to-do list that I hope I can like get done first, so that there's some content in the next release.
Alright. Next question from Tabet. Will there be references to the game Evolutions! Exclamation mark in Fryth? Probably not. I mean, it is a big part of their history. I don't know if it'll be like any direct mention or anything though.
Maybe something small, but not like huge, you know? Just like text somewhere.
Maybe we'll have a event or something in later stages where there's a trending fad about a game called Evolutions.
Yeah, maybe.
Alright. Super Awesome Goku has asked, will there be toxin reduction organelles? I've kind of been thinking about using peroxisomes, though I'm not entirely sure if that's their proper function. Otherwise, I've also been looking into an upgrade for mitochondrion that would help metabolize toxins. Which I think that's part of the function of the mitochondria in your liver. But I am not confident. I would like some feedback from the theory team about that.
Peroxisomes, I know, also can help with some environmental stuff. Like, I think sometimes they help with oxygen, but I'm not sure. So that could be a bigger upgrade scheme for that type of organelle.
Alright. Oraski Rakayati has asked, what is the macroscopic mode like currently in terms of graphics? It's a bit silly.
Blobs.
It's just spears. It's like Legos, but they're spears instead of blocks.
Yeah, and there's a big chunk of iron in the middle, so.
Yep. And you could roll around on it. It's kind of funny.
That's it, really.
Yeah, and you can try the new choke movement mode, which makes the third-person movement actually not related to the camera. I've never seen that in a game before, so that's just there to poke fun at the people who complained so hard on the micro stage movement scheme that I finally caved in and added a screen relative movement mode for the microbe stage.
Prior developers have a good sense of humor.
Marsali has asked, is symbiosis gonna be possible?
I think, like, in terms of the simulation, for example, with Auto Evo, once environmental tolerances are worked in, then, you know, photosynthetic animals or like cells which create oxygen can help with mitochondria-bearing organisms, but that's not really endosymbiosis.
It's a bit of a broad form of it, I suppose.
Yeah, but there's no specific way we're going to deal with it. It'll just emerge naturally, you know?
Alright. Willow 50 mil is asked, would my 2003 PC handle the game? Probably with some difficulty.
Probably not at all.
Try it and let us know.
And Sarn has asked, is there any ideas for singular cellular sexual reproduction? And any idea how it could work in general compared to asexual reproduction in Thrive? That has been a topic in past. Can't remember exactly if we decided anything. I don't think we did.
I think I said that I'd like to see first like the early multicellular sexual reproduction. Then we can like model that backwards to the cell stage.
Fair enough. It's definitely something we've had our eyes on, but still unclear how exactly it'll affect the game. Alright, and Joshua Orders is asked, do you guys need game designers? It can help, but it's not like a critical need, I don't think.
Well, I think there are some stuff like designing at least one upgrade for each organelle. That is kind of a thing that a designer could do to like no programmer can take on that task before it's been designed what the upgrades are. So there is kind of some pretty important work, but there's not huge need for a game designer. Much more, once again, the classical bottleneck is that we don't have enough programmers to finish all of the things that should be added and fix all of the bugs. So I mean, definitely if someone who has game design skills and could also fulfill some other roles that help the game be developed, that would be like a really
For
good
sure.
combo, like some outreach skills or something like that.
Alright. Next question's from Tristan Nisha. How close do you think you are to being finished with the microbe stage? The finish line is in sight, I feel, but we still got some work cut out for us.
Yeah, and of course you need to remember that the first 80% takes the 80% of the time, and then the last 20% takes also 80% of the time. So I'd say that we might be halfway through the microbe stage right now, kind of like feature-wise of what's planned.
A lot of big changes we have plotted out for the environments and such. Alright. When do you think 0.6.2 will come out? Probably in 3 months.
3-month schedule. Every update.
Are you having a good day? I am.
Me too. It's pretty good. Lazy.
Yeah. Nice weather.
Yeah.
Not a profit.
This is where I'm afraid I'll have to head off. Or I have work ahead of me now. I gotta get going.
Oh, great. Okay, well, nice having you stop by.
Glad to have made it. You have a good day and a good rest of the Friday stream.
You enjoy your day too.
Thank you. That I'm gone. Bye.
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 Okay, let's do this. We'll answer some questions from the chat, I guess. Real quick.
Oh, yeah, we just finished forum post, yep.
Okay. So Noradrenaline asks, just chimed in, so sorry if this has already been answered, but can you save in multicellular now? No, right? Prototypes.
You can save while you are swimming around, but not in the editor. That will tell you that you can't save in the prototypes. I added the saving while swimming around because people were complaining so much. And technically, because it uses the same stage code, it is actually pretty easy to make that work. So I did that, but saving in the editor is going to be a lot harder and going to have a bunch of new bugs. So that's not added.
Well, there we go. We can save in the prototypes a bit now. And Japards asks, are you going to add parts or upgrades for the specializations that we don't do as well, like gatherers, hydrogen sulfide based cells, and iron cells? Buckley briefly brought up the idea of having, alternative parts of the sulfur cycle as upgrades to the hydrogen sulfide chemosynthesizing part. There's nothing concrete yet, and we'll see if we'll need it eventually. But as of now, expect a few cool things to come from the upgrade, but not like a huge transformation of how metabolisms work and such. And then one more question from the chat for now. Galaxy Juggernaut asks, will there be any parasitic behavior implemented? And will there? I'm not sure.
I mean, people have been asking for that quite a while, so that's kind of in the pile that we'll probably maybe get around to it eventually, but as that's like a dead end for the player, so it's not a high priority.
Yeah, at the same time, it also raises another issue, which is the fact that to be a parasite, you need something that is more complex in a sense than you are, so that you can just use its processes. And the thing is, you can't have too much of a discrepancy between the complexity of what you encounter and what you are as a player, because like it would just mean you being a single cell evolving alongside like complex forms, really complex. So, well, it may start like creating issues with the timescales. So I'm not sure it would be easy to pull it off, because like the difference between the two worlds, that of the AI you want to parasite and yours, would be very huge in terms of evolutionary timescales.
Yeah, I know. Along that note, I know some people want the form of parasitism where you're a parasite inside the organ systems of another larger organism, and I think that's something we'll probably have to say no to, because that's just a lot of work. I feel like for a very special case. But we have things like the proboscis pilot's plant, where you can do hostile resource transfer, like suck in resources from another cell. And I wonder if we can have something soon where, if you get engulfed by another cell, in special cases, you might be able to extract some nutrients from them, but nothing concrete, really.
Yeah, that would be relevant, but yeah, again, most parasitic behavior may be a bit too complicated to implement in game. But I like the idea of getting voluntarily engulfed just to snatch the nutrients. Could be fun. That would be like more perhaps temporary parasitism, but yeah, would be cool.
Yeah. Maybe that gave us an idea, so that could be something cool. Okay, well, I guess we can go back to the forums for a bit, and oh, 1 second, the stream is pretty low quality for me, so I'll hop onto the forums myself.
I'll handle the questions by below. So
Okay.
I think all of the 3 ones are kind of linked. Like the first one is, will there be any organelles to transmit data over long distances quickly before macroscopic? And then will the speed of communication be limited on what you use for it. And then actually the third question with the signaling agent speed here, like this clarifies that what they mean. So basically currently the signaling agent immediately alerts every cell of that species of what's happening. And well, I guess we could technically model how fast like some chemical disperses in water or something for the communication delay, but it's like such a minor detail that I'm not going to even think about it, but someone might want to design something for this.
I wonder if we can have it so that the more what's it called signaling agents you have on each cell, the quicker signaling happens. But like you said, that's not really like a huge priority sort of thing, I think.
Yeah, and it would be weird. The limit of signaling agents is the ability of the chemicals you're releasing to reach the others. So, well, if you really want to make some strategic play there, you could use the currents, but beyond that, you're bound to have some delay, or just if we decide to ignore it, no delay at all. But that's about all we can truly sensibly play upon to change the behavior in a sense.
Yeah, I'd say as of now, yeah, that's as far as we can probably take it, really. And then we'll ask a few questions, answer a few more questions from the the stream. Noradrenaline asks, what's the best way to support the project going forward for people who have zero skills in game development or programming? I mentioned this a bit earlier, but outreach, like posting on new threads on Reddit every once in a while, or making YouTube videos, contacting YouTube creators. Like I said, we tend to have big booms in activity if a popular YouTuber or a popular post gets put up somewhere. So that really helps when we get that injection.
Definitely. So just spread the word and yeah, try get Thrive to be known as much as you can if you want to help without participating in programming. Otherwise, just a reminder that there are also many tutorials online and that we all started not knowing how to program. And actually, it's been quite a good way to practice and to exercise our coding skills. So yeah, just do not be afraid to just take the step if you want to. This is a really nice journey that you could take.
Yeah, I think Harlena knows better than me, but I think Godot itself, like, you can do a decent amount of stuff without really knowing much about coding. If you know the framework for how Godot works, you can do a pretty good amount of like minor things to help with us.
Yeah, you can like fix like GUI layout problems, or actually we've done quite a good job of making sure our components actually show their parameters in like the Godot editor. So for example, if some parameter tweak could fix some bug or fix some annoyance or tweak game balance, so those are kind of changes that like anyone should be able to do. Of course, understanding the systems will greatly help in that, but there's a lot of different skill levels. For example, Buckley has talked about that, like environmental stuff, like spawning in some inert objects or stuff like that. Those could be like pretty really simple, like things that you just take a few components and write a little bit of code to hook them up. Like that is also like kind of a code that help drive development if someone can do that.
Yeah, I remember one thing we talked about that was a minor thing was that even we wanted to like remove the bubbles from the what's called the parallax background layers that we have in the game currently. So that's a pretty simple thing, I think. And if you just skim through a lot of the issues on GitHub, I think there'll be a lot of simple things that a lot of people can do. So there's that answer.
Yeah, that parallax thing is more like we need some artist to redraw 3 of the 4 background layers.
Yeah.
To replace them with something else. Oh, and also there's one texture which has a visible seam, doesn't repeat correctly. So that also like needs some artistic touch to redraw that one corner of the texture.
I think someone created a background for that, but it isn't put in the game yet, which just goes to show that a lot of what can help us is just putting things in that are already done in a way. So
I don't remember seeing that, but I may have overlooked something, but I think if someone said to me that, hey, I fixed that one background that has been like a bit visually broken for like 8 years, like I would drop everything I've been doing and put it in the game myself if someone gave me the file.
Okay, well, never mind. I think I might have forgotten.
I think Nick did a desaturation or some kind of, or was it blurring filter on the backgrounds, and did a test build of that. But yeah, that result was that some of the backgrounds are kind of nice, but not all of them are like really improved. So that was like, it doesn't really improve the game with those tweaks. It just didn't get accepted because no one was really into the new graphics.
Yeah. And then Mr. 42, who can answer this quick. Do you need 3D modelers? I think that would help.
Yeah, we've accepted some graphics people recently, but I think a big problem is that for graphics, like we don't need anything for like 2 or 3 months, and then suddenly we have like 48 hours, like we need new model for this thing, like now.
Yeah.
Like we kind of need someone who can do graphics on demand and maybe like some other tasks to stay in touch with the Drive team.
Yeah, UI tends to get need some love every once in a while because we tend to need a new button every once in a while. So
yeah,
I
and
guess
new organelle icons, new upgrade icons, stuff like that.
Yeah.
For the organelle pool upgrade, I just took the original one and spent 30 seconds drawing some arrows on it. Doesn't look that good, and well, I guess it doesn't look so terrible that anyone wanted to redraw it immediately either. So
it's not horrible.
yeah, I guess it's just enough in the meh zone that no one will do anything about it.
It seems legit, yeah.
And yeah, don't count on me for drawing. I'm terrible at it. That being said, I will have to leave. So thank you to the chat for accompanying us, and thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
See ya.
Yep.
Enjoy the rest of the night.
You
or
too.
Day, depending on where you are. Goodbye.
Thanks
Bye.
for being on
Enjoy.
the stream.
All right, so we have one of the most ambitious devs, game designers left, and we have Hirelena, who's pretty on top of the code. So this will be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, we can still continue. I was thinking that when there was just 5 minutes before the stream, there was just me and Buckley in the chat. I was thinking that maybe this will be a 2-man podcast.
Yeah.
But then a couple of people joined, like usual, like very late. So we did get some people, but now we are down a few people.
Yeah. All right, well, let's get the show on the road. Should we answer a community thread question?
I guess we can kind of skip over this one by confirming that we'll figure out some way to prevent the heat death of the universe to continue on Thrive.
Oh, there's Olive. Hello.
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 Hello. Are you guys aware that the stream is currently in very low quality? I just checked it on YouTube.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's about. I don't know how to fix it.
Oh.
Oh.
I wasn't paying attention. It is saying that bitrate is really low.
Is there something you can do about that?
I don't actually know why it is so low. So well, you guys answer some questions, and I'll try to figure out what's going on.
Okay.
Anything interesting happened so far? Hello everyone. I'm Oliver, by the way.
We a lot of the same, really. We answered some questions. They've been a bit more in depth, I feel like, this time around. A bit more focused on the
Nice,
south stage.
nice.
Would you believe that? So, pretty cool stuff. Let me just find where we are in the question thread. I don't know. Okay, organelles. Okay, we'll answer this one from the community forums from NNAC, I think. And it says, I know that it's too early to start thinking about the next stage. I can't help but feel excited. In the multi-accelerator prototype, there's an option to go to land, and I was curious if this would remain the case throughout development. I was under the impression that going to land would be the one of the last things done in the stage and simply not available at the start. Of course, it's still a prototype, so I could be wrong. Have a good stream and a good day. Does anyone else want to add input?
Well, the answer is that it is a prototype, so I just put in the put button there that players will just press it to get to the next prototype part.
Yeah, anything you experience in the later parts of the game there is subject to very heavy amounts of change, and a kind of button of that case for simply going to land is very likely as a candidate to be changed.
Yeah. Ideally, you would be able to go to land on land whenever you have the physical capacity to. So for different types of animals, organisms, for example, for arthropods or animals with exoskeletons, that'll probably be a bit easier because they're more able to keep moisture inside their skin. But for animals like vertebrates who don't have an exoskeleton, then it might be a bit harder, and you might need some more time before you are able to go on land. Okay, and then question from Oris Harmonis on the community forums are, when do you plan to fix the colony deformation and the early multicellular stage? We discussed this earlier. Whenever someone is able to get on that, and ultimately the fix won't be that big because cells themselves don't tend to deform that much when they're in colonies. Will bioluminescent vacuoles be added and when? 0.9, right? Yeah, 0.9, I think.
It's definitely on the list. I think the main question is, what will they actually do? What benefit will they bring to a creature beside just looking pretty?
Yeah, because we discussed this a bit earlier. Cells don't have eyes, so there's a question of what function it will fill, unless you have a photoreceptor. I think it could be cool if it just kind of like induced certain chemical processes, because I know it's used in communication. So, for example, if you have a certain light, it might tell another cell to, I don't know, like release glucose or something, but that's a whole bag of things that we should consider later in the stage.
Yeah, I guess there are paths forward for communication and behavior.
Yeah.
When it comes to bioluminescence, which of course is its usual function in life as it exists on our planet.
Yeah. And sorry, 1 second. Will ecosystem/save files be shareable through a code or link? I know Worlds Auto Evo is kind of shareable right now, right?
I don't really know. Like,
I think this question pertains specifically to sharing them through a code or a link.
Oh, a link.
yeah. So this would be like, do we plan on adding a saves hosting functionality? And well, currently, I don't think it's really really plan to become a cloud hosting provider for drive saves.
There's definitely scope for it in fossilization. That was one of the things that's been in mind with that from the beginning of the concept. So that would be sharing saved creatures or creations, much like Spore's content library. But sharing entire saves would probably be a bit too much for some kind of, I don't know, content management system that we would want to design ourselves.
Mm.
The stream is still in very low quality.
Yeah, I mean, I can't find anything because I have OBS says I have 0 dropped frames, so I have no clue why it is in low bitrate mode.
Is it something with YouTube itself, perhaps? I'm not sure.
I mean, I could try like going to like lower bitrate if it does anything.
Mm.
Well, it dropped the bitrate like 50% more. Well, it did. So yeah, it did something, but like not doing what I liked it to see. Well, I mean, I can try like restarting the broadcast or my internet connection.
It off and on again. Maybe the only option at this point.
Yeah, probably. Maybe.
Yeah, it'll probably be worth it. We'll be right back, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I just hit stop and resume. Okay, now bitrate looks normal.
Not sure there's anything we can do to that part of the video. Yeah. Someone says it's fixed. It is fixed. Good.
Yeah, there should be like half a second at most probably missing.
Alright, dope. Much better.
Yeah, this is the first time that's happened, so I guess I should be keeping a closer eye on the YouTube page because it says here a warning. I was actually replying to some community forum threads a bit, so I wasn't paying that much attention.
Well, it just meant everyone got to experience live debugging, even though the solution was very simple. Anyway, where were we? Next question.
I think we should answer some stream questions at this point, which I pasted here. I guess super awesome Goku. We can start with. Would cysts or tougher skin be an evolution you can take or an action your cell produces? There's a concept for that. I think that would be a pretty simple mechanic to implement that could have cool gameplay implementations, but I don't know much about the implementation of mechanics, so.
Yeah, I think that's in the pile of ideas too far in the future to consider in detail right now.
Yeah, so stay tuned, but who knows. And Tabat asked a question to Higher Lennon. Are you planning to do an ASMR stream?
Wasn't my previous Drive development stream enough? Well, I guess I've been kind of thinking that I might do like live coding of Drive Part 2 at some point, but it would be basically almost the exact same stream that I just look at some stuff and try to explain what I'm like doing in my code editor, or like if I actually want to do something, I'm going to be completely silent thinking about various possibilities. Unless I'm narrating.
I have wondered whether it would be worth uploading a video of, say, just adding a button that does something in Godot, just to demonstrate the various steps that you would have to go through for that, because various developers that we've have had questions about that sort of approach.
I mean, could be. I'd need to pick out like 2 or 3 pretty easy issues I think I could actually solve live, because it would be pretty embarrassing to pick something that suddenly I can't fix and I spent 2 hours debugging the problem.
Yeah,
like
if there's a very
last
small
time,
scope.
last time I actually ran into the problem where if a temporary object throws an exception in the Godot editor, then all of the editor properties are actually broken. We have much better detection for that now in the game, so it prints better error messages, but there's always some other possible weird bug that will happen when you try to demonstrate something live.
Well, you have
You could always do something and practice it, right? If you practice adding a button and then
Well, it might as well be
tutorial.
like an edited video. So like I record an hour and someone takes out all of the false steps. But like for a live stream, I think it would be actually better to like do it actually live to show the real process.
Nonetheless, you have a cult on the community forums, so I think whatever you do will be received well by at least some people.
Don't encourage them.
Yeah. My bad. We'll answer one more question from the live stream questions, and then we'll go back to the forums. I'm not sure what this one's asking exactly. Septagram, will echolocators experience blue shifting and red shifting? Do you guys have a clue what that means? Or
maybe like echolocation something, I don't know. Sounds more like if we want to make some feature like really realistic, we could simulate like the redshift of waves. Electromagnetic waves, I mean.
Well, that might be a bit too much detail for what we're trying to do in the aware stage for echolocation. For the space stage, I can imagine that being more of an applicable thing, maybe easily. But besides that, just let's get to that point and then we'll decide. Okay, I guess we go for a community forum question.
I think I have like the right question on stream now, so do you agree that Horus Hormonus is the next one?
Okay. When do you plan to fix the colony deformation early months?
We've
So
just
talked
done,
about
we've just done this, right? Yeah.
Welcome. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
I think this might also be related to the bug where, or one of two bugs. One is that sometimes cells seem to position themselves like inside other ones. Like that's a bug. And then another is that the editor doesn't remember the exact cell positions because it converts between like the full hex models and single hexes representing entire cells, so it isn't one-to-one. So it loses some information. So that's two kind of bugs that will be fixed at some point.
And
So
that's
we've just
causing cells to
gained.
spawn inside of each other right now.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say we've just
sorry,
gained a new person in the stream. Hello.
Hello. Hey guys, former developer. I just decided to pop in because it seemed I was worried you guys might be lonely with only 3 people.
It's definitely better to have more people.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, awesome. Well, sorry, you guys go back to the question. I didn't know what you guys were talking about when I first popped in.
Oh, well, I think we're done with Horus Harmonis. We answered that a bit earlier, so.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
and then,
the second 2 questions also were answered, that we probably won't have like a safe storage kind of thing online. Or maybe we would, but like we need to decide if we want to actually pay for people's saves to be stored in our cloud storage.
Does Steam not provide anything to?
It does. Well, I mean, if you play the Steam version, you have Steam Cloud Saves enabled by default, and then then I guess we could do a system where you can upload your saves as workshop items, and people could download those. But like, I haven't bothered to think about that.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I would expect this question is more in the vein of an in-game contents library.
Well,
not-
actually, Steam does provide the APIs to browse the workshop in the game, and you can actually like make all of the buttons to like download workshop mods while in the game, and then automatically update the mods list, etc. So it would be definitely possible to program in the Steam version a button that allows you to upload fossils as workshop items or your saves as workshop items. Then there could also be a browser for those in the game.
And then, what about people who don't use the Steam version? Would they just have to manually install those saves?
Yeah, they would have to find their own cloud storage to share saves,
Oh,
which is the situation currently.
Yeah,
makes
you can always currently upload saves to, I don't know, Google Drive or Dropbox or something for other people to download, but that's entirely at the user's own, dependent on their own actions. That's
Yeah,
not something we
the
provide.
same as sharing mods outside Steam.
Okay, should we move on?
Yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. We can go to the community forums. Ni asks, "What's your favorite food?" I'll answer with, "There's an Arabic dish I like. It's called melokhia. It's like a green stew with rice in it. Good luck pronouncing or spelling that. But yeah.
Yeah, could you type that in the chat for us?
Oh, great. Let me try to find the Arabic or the English to Arabic thing. But in the meantime, you guys can answer the question.
Well, olives for me,
Ah,
unironically.
Actually, is that where you came up with your username?
No, it was my name that inspired me to make my username.
Okay.
But olives are good. It was also my name that inspired me to like olives, probably.
That's fair. That's fair.
all right. 2. What's the most enjoyable part of developing Thrive? It will vary from person to person. I just like it's always fun for me to learn about a new thing that cells or life deals with as a whole, and then try to think of ways that might benefit the experience, ways that we might not benefit from that experience being implemented in Thrive, and kind of creating an abstract model of the concept in terms of game design. That's my enjoyable part of developing Thrive.
Sorry to jump in, but the frame rate just plummeted again.
Oh god.
Oh no,
I've got
not
like
again.
Let me
yeah,
actually
I can
do
see.
a speed test on my internet connection to see if there's anything wrong with me, or if it's like Steam problem, or well, it could be an OBS bug as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and I can't even see what the spelling
it's
that
very
Grace has put
fuzzy.
in the chat.
Well, at least we know the title for the stream. Technical issues.
Is the audio at least like still listenable or
Hopefully, because
still like intelligible?
Yeah, it is. It is. I've checked. Occasionally, you can hear the low bit rate, but you can manage through it.
well, my connection download and upload is pretty fine. Well, evenings are usually the peak time, but still should be way more than enough that I've selected, so I'll just toggle the stream off and on again.
It's probably just a YouTube problem or an OBS one.
Yeah, the bitrate goes immediately back to normal after turning off the stream for half a second.
That is strange.
Anyway, safe to continue now.
Okay, great. I guess Hi, Lennon. Do you have a most enjoyable part of developing Thrive? And Oliver too, if you want to answer that.
I think actually getting to work on some interesting problem and then getting that feature finished and released as well, so to see people enjoying the work you've done.
Yeah, that sounds admirable.
For me, I guess I just have fun prototyping things, really. That was part of my enjoyment with adding things like the slime jet. It was just being able to add something to the code quite quickly and have fun testing it.
Yeah, I know you've been with the project for like a decade almost, so it must
Yeah,
be
my preferences in what I enjoy doing have definitely changed over time.
yeah.
Very true to say.
Yeah, you made like basically, I would say almost greater than 50% of the soundtracks that Thrive has right now. That's
Yeah, probably.
pretty
I just haven't been making much music lately, so I suppose I can't really say that these days.
So is there like, when you think of Thrive, is there? I'm just curious. Are there like childhood memories that you get? Almost.
Well, I wasn't that young. I was what, 13 when I started, roughly.
Oh, I see. That's still
time ago.
fairly young.
And I'm still stuck with it. I mean, I'm still, yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, just out of
Stuck with it,
curiosity,
huh?
are there any other devs that you met at that time that's still with the project?
Nick was involved at the time, and he still pops in every now and then.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, but he disappeared again. I think I actually put a reminder for myself that I think he's soon been again inactive long enough that he needs to be put back in the inactive members list. So
He always like brings in a buzz of activity when he comes back, and then he goes, and then he comes back again. It's refreshing to have that outside perspective every once in a while.
yeah, suddenly comes in with a ton of really polished posts, post them all at once, and then
Yeah, I wonder if
swiftly
he's a perfectionist. Like,
disappears.
Yeah, it's like
yeah, he might
2
be a
years.
perfectionist because like he might have the mindset where if he is not in the energy state to contribute super high quality posts, he just decides to not to contribute anything at all. I guess I can
Maybe.
understand that.
Maybe, yeah.
I think it is probably worth a more focused effort to contact old devs and try and get them more on board, because that definitely would, you know, every time it has happened, it's definitely spiked activity in the project.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a while since we had some old developers check in.
But if you're out
But
there,
most of them
we're
are,
always happy to hear from you.
Sorry, you go first.
So I was just saying, if any old devs are listening, we would always be happy to hear from you and to have you back on board.
For sure. I was just curious because most of them should be like in their late 20s, if not 30s by now. So like, I guess I understand it. It is probably like they're really busy with other things in life, and it's just like joining in a volunteer project is not on the top of their priorities.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go through some questions real quick just to make sure we answer a bit more. There's this complicated one from Nee, the third one, talking about the option to have your species split off from your previous like main species. And I think that could be useful in things with environmental tolerances, things like that. A lot of that logic when it comes to patch movement and things like that will probably be implemented or rethought once we put environmental tolerances, just because like it will seriously change the way we deal with the habitable range of a player. So a lot of that kind of thought train will have to be revisited when we implement environmental tolerances, probably.
Yeah, probably makes sense that like environmental tolerance changes probably like affect the player's population. Otherwise, maybe it's better to like show some kind of info box that other part of your species will split off or something like that. But I also wanted to comment that the player species is as likely candidate to have new offshoot species come from it than any other AI species. So it's currently treated fairly in the game, but of course that means when you have like 100 species, it's only 1% chance that the player species would be like the parent species for a new split.
Currently, are there rules for how many new species can, I guess, split off during each evolution cycle?
Well, the various pieces of the code make sure that like one species can split into two if it finds. Hang on.
Again.
Probably fine again. Yep. Okay. So like one species can split into two if it finds two good mutations, and also each batch that has low number of species can have one spontaneously generated species from another like split off. So that like creates like kind of hard limit how many new species can appear per one of the outer ecosystem.
But it is like linearly relative to the current number of species. Like potentially we could have like 100 species split off in one turn, right?
I guess so.
Okay, I get it.
I think it's pretty unlikely though. I mean, it's tweaked so that like, I mean, of course it's like possible, but like from using the auto evo tool, exploring tool a bunch, like it seems like it's pretty well tuned that there's like 2 or 3 species splits usually per generation.
Yeah, that's probably for the better, because like if there's no hard cap on the number of species, I could see that like bottlenecking performance pretty quickly.
Well, there actually is. Like auto evo has a cap that if there's more than 10 pieces in a batch, it will start throwing around massive population penalties to kill off the lowest species.
Well, yeah, that's pretty well thought system. Awesome, I guess.
Next question. Hold on. Question 3 from 50 gens. I think we can answer. It's a bit of a new thing. Do you think in multicellular and aware stages, all animals would have photosynthetic skin? Because if it doesn't have a disadvantage, it would only grant some free recluse. Do you think this would happen? If we implement things like surface area to volume ratios, that'll be kind of a way to encourage players to be more thoughtful of what they implement, so they're not just like throwing around like 50 different sources of metabolisms or energy in one organism. Because the big disadvantage with something with photosynthesis is, for example, one, it doesn't generate that much energy to begin with to fuel a motile animal. And two, if you want to go down the path of being photosynthetic, you have to make a lot of concessions when it comes to surface area. Becoming leaves. You have to evolve some sort of leaf structure, which makes you a lot more delicate and slow and vulnerable to currents and things like that. So it can be balanced out pretty well if we implement surface area and volume ratios, I think.
I mean, that's not the only thing that we can add as a drawback, right? Currently in the game, photosynthesis is it's chosen for at a highly disproportionate rate, and I think one reason for that could be because we haven't properly implemented all of its drawbacks. I am not well versed enough in biology to know what those drawbacks would be, but considering we don't see every single living thing using photosynthesis in the real world, they must exist, right?
Oh yeah, and there are a lot of drawbacks you can implement. For example, I think the night and day cycle thing helped with the gameplay challenge of photosynthesis, where of course we need to bump up photosynthesis or like balance the day-night cycle a bit more. But you already see a huge effect on gameplay as a photosynthetic animal for that.
I'll quickly comment on this after that. I'll definitely do something to make sure that we don't get moving around sentient plants, even if it's some kind of basic weight debuff that completely affects your ability to move or something like that.
It's personal at this point.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, let's answer some questions from the live stream. Night of Power, we answered the macroscopic stage estimates. Is it possible oh yeah, we discussed this, but if there are some features that require Godot 4.0, which hasn't been released yet, does this mean we're literally waiting for Godot?
I mean,
Well,
that joke has been made many
yeah.
times in the past.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I definitely remember making it.
not really.
There's always ways to work around like a game engine. You don't blame
Yeah.
your tool, right? Like,
Well, actually, we are using an inbuilt H-flow container, which simply doesn't support centering items until 3.6, so we are literally waiting for 3.6 to fix few parts of the GUI.
wow, like
but-
such a big engine has like such jarring
But
GUI
not,
problems. Like,
not
that's-
waiting for 4.0.
Yeah.
Wait, so are there just parts of the GUI right now that are compromised or like really hacky?
Well, the options menu in the latest version and the editor buttons are left aligned now instead of centered.
Oh, I see. So,
So-
it would break on weird resolutions, I'm guessing.
No, it just looks a bit weird having become used to seeing those buttons centered, and all of a sudden they are left aligned.
Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Alright,
I would
oh.
guess that if someone didn't play the game for like 4 months and then played the new release, they wouldn't even notice that. But to me, it looks strange, so I'm planning on fixing that once 3.6 comes out.
Galaxy Juggernaut 1 asks, will there be a mode where you just watch the world go by as it pleases? A bit of that is... do we have a mod for that, or is that something else?
I made a mod for that, although I'm aware there's quite a significant bug with it where the AI is still aware the player exists and will try to eat them, even though they're not there. I thought I'd fixed that, but apparently I hadn't, so maybe I need to take a look at it. But yeah, that mod does exist, and it doesn't change that much, so it would be not. I think it's more a design question. There are more design questions regarding an observer mode than implementation questions.
Well,
Yeah.
I think some kind of like aquarium mode where the game just spawns in stuff and occasionally runs the auto evo would be like that thing. It wouldn't be literally that you play through the game, but like the player doesn't exist. At least I hope, because that sounds very complicated to make. In fact, I think the prototype, the benchmark is actually pretty close to the observer mode idea already. Like it has the micro camera and few of the other core systems that make the AI microbes be able to like work and do stuff, but there's no player at all. So,
In
like-
such an observer mode, like is the AI like smart enough to evolve into something that's some kind of creature that's like a reasonably competitive in like a short period of time? Because if so, that's pretty impressive already, I would say.
Kind of, yeah. It's at least a challenge for the player. Like, for example, sometimes when I play, like, the small organisms will die out, and I'll only have the large organisms, which means I have to like rely on another strategy besides engulfing.
Yeah, that's pretty good, but like that's still technically evolving like in response to the player. I'm saying in an observer mode, is the AI not like smart enough to evolve by itself into something that's like pretty logical, a pretty reasonable stuff.
I mean, in auto evo, the species have no clue who is the player and who is not. So the AI species will evolve the same way if there is a player or there isn't a player. Of course, like when there is the player, they try to compete with the player.
But they would compete it with whatever organism was in that position.
Yeah, if you like remove that this is no longer the player, still like that species type would still compete with the other ones just the same.
But generally, the player would make more effective cells that would speed up like the overall evolution of like the environment.
Yeah, probably.
Well, I mean, considering that people complain that not enough species split from the player, I'd say that player might not have that huge difference. Of course, you can actually even check the Auto-Evo exploring tool where the player species technically exists, but doesn't evolve ever, and see in there how the AI species look.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense. But technically, you don't have to evolve from the player to affect the world. It could just be like the type of cells that the player decides to kill. Like I remember, I don't know if this is still the case. I remember a while ago there was a forum post about like the AI starting to evolve almost transparent cells because they were like more immune from the player hunting.
Yes.
Yeah. That is the Darwinian system that is on top of the other stuff. That would obviously like not apply as much in an observer mode, but we can still keep like the part where if the AI cells kill each other, they get bonuses and penalties for dying and killing something else.
We have 4 minutes, by the way, right?
Well, I mean, if we want to stop at 2 hours, which I guess we could, because, well, it's never a promise that the non-priority questions are all answered.
Yeah.
In fact,
I say we try.
let me scroll down a bit. Or should I? Did we answer this gradient descent question?
No, that was part of the
50
post.
games. Okay, well, I guess if someone is really good at math and wants to add that to the Auto-Evo system, we could use it as long as it doesn't impact performance that much.
We addressed the microscopic creature interacting with macroscopic creatures bit of parasitism. It would be pretty complex to have that in full kind of complexity, so that probably won't be simulated in too much of depth besides affecting the environment as a whole. Oh wait, never mind. Okay.
I believe then there's just one post left in the thread.
Yep.
Oh yeah, just the last one. 16th post is me closing the thread, so
Yeah.
I think we answered the environmental tolerances already.
Yes.
And dynamic environmental stuff is something that Maxonovian is kind of still working on, but it's on hold. It's been on for a while, but it might get done at some point. And I'm not sure if other developers have heard about this, but I've been like monitoring everything on the community forums and stuff. So I've seen this idea that someone said that like the iron respiration should produce glucose for otters to hunt stuff. And I think a pretty good idea came up that we could have an organelle that takes ATP and makes glucose for storage purposes. Like that would solve multiple types of energy sources at once. And I think that would be pretty realistic to add at that kind of thing. But what keeps me from suggesting fully adding that yet would be some kind of smarter system than there currently exists to limit that process from destroying things immediately.
Thing akin to like storing energy in starch, then I suppose.
Yeah, kind of like that would be a pretty good realistic organelle to add, especially for for various stuff like making fat cells or making plant fiber cells or something like that in the future.
Interesting.
Yeah, I like that
My,
idea actually.
Ignorance of biology, but in practice, how like in gameplay wise, in practice, how would that be different from the vacuole?
vacuole just store stuff. So this organelle would take energy that you have now and make it into glucose. So that if you don't have enough energy later, you can turn the glucose back into energy with some losses.
If we implement what's called having behaviors change depending on conditions, that could be very useful for plant gameplay.
Yeah,
or-
that could work.
Yeah, exactly.
Could work, yeah. I think someone should bring this up in the development forums, so this isn't entirely forgotten, as it seems people are pretty interested in this
It
idea.
seems like it would synergize well with photosynthesis as well.
Yeah, I'll put it on a sticky note and then I'll bring it up later.
I mean, in
Any
terms of this question specifically, which is asking, well, how can glucose enter the food chain? I think there is currently just a bit of a fudge to give some amount of glucose for anything that's engulfed.
Yeah,
Correct me if I'm
actually
wrong,
there
yeah.
is, but AutoEvo doesn't use that, but it
Yeah.
doesn't even model like the glucose at all. So if you eat something, you get some points in an energy score from it. Doesn't actually check that if the things in that cell's body is something you can eat. At least I don't remember seeing that kind of complicated stuff there. So currently that is not a problem, but if we model things more accurately, then maybe it would become, and this organelle could be a solution. And I especially like that it would apply to other sources as well. So it wouldn't be an iron-specific fix of breaking the iron processing into multiple steps. I think we got through all of the pre-stream questions just under 2 hours.
And the stream has decided to
Yeah,
lose all its pixels
once again.
So
I mean, this is like the 6th time I'm restarting.
Should we do 3 more chat questions or something, and then that'll be it?
Yeah, we can do a few
Sounds good to me.
more just to end. But I mean, on YouTube, it at one point it said like no data and then went back to excellent. So might be a YouTube side problem, this streaming thing.
Interesting. I guess is it possible to enter the land as an invertebrate and become a vertebrate later? Septigram asks. That might be a bit more difficult than the more traditional path at that point. Maybe if you're a soft-bodied organism, like a worm or something, maybe. As an arthropod or an exoskeleton-bearing animal, it might be a bit harder. But yeah, there's no never, I'd say. Tabat asks, can HH say something in Finnish? Is too busy currently. So
apparently not.
ask him later.
Well, if I knew what I could say, then kai mä nyt ehkä jotakin voisin suomeksikin sanoa tässä, mutta ei mulla oikeastaan mitään ideaa ole, että mitä tässä sanoisi, niin onneksi kukaan ei todennäköisesti saa tästä mitään selvää, että mitä mä nyt sanon. There you go. Just said absolutely nothing for multiple sentences.
There we go. Someone texted perkele in the chat.
That did almost sound like ASMR.
Yeah.
We will forever be ignorant as to what was said.
Yeah, well, I'd say so. Will vacuoles be able to be joined or blended to make a single large vacuole like plant cells have? I mean, if someone wants to put that in, sure. That would functionally be the same as just having multiple small vacuoles, so it's not a priority. But hey, if someone wants to put it in, then yeah, go ahead.
I guess it just mean graphically, probably.
Yeah, just like adding like some new features just to make multiple nearby organelles or touching organelles be able to sometimes switch to a different model sounds like, well, that's not very consequential
but that's not realistic,
change,
right? Because like organelles don't turn bigger, I guess, in cells.
Vacuoles do. Vacuoles.
Vacuoles do.
Yeah.
Yeah, how much
Like
stuff they have.
Yeah, and plant cells, big because there's a huge vacuole in the middle. So
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it would be nice to get to a place where you could just place vacuoles and it would kind of procedurally join them together into a big blob to create cells of, as you were describing, which have a giant vacuole in the middle.
Yep. So join the team, become a graphics programmer, and then go ahead, world's your oyster. And then I guess last question: what if you meet areas where it's not possible for the plant to thrive, like under a shadow or areas overtook by better plant organisms? Well, if we have a plant concept or a sessile organism concept, which involves hotspots of resources, and height is a very important strategy for phototrophic animals, or organisms. So you can expect that to be implemented eventually when we get to plant evolution. And there we have it. Those are the questions.
All of the questions once again.
Once again.
Subarashi.
So I guess we are.
At the end?
Or how many minutes are we past? Hours? Maybe 6. I can't actually see this time because I've restarted the stream so many times that it says just 4 minutes.
Yeah, it began 2 hours 6 minutes apparently.
Pretty good work.
That sounds reasonable for a stream.
Yeah, I guess we can just close this off by saying that, well, new team members are always appreciated to help us make all of these crazy features everyone keeps asking about.
And if you aren't able to join the team, then you can always support by purchasing on Steam or supporting on the Patreon or simply telling other people and sharing on the internet various Thrive things. It's always welcome.
And spam YouTubers to play Thrive. But do it respectfully.
For sure.
Yeah, don't annoy them.
Yeah, that will be counterintuitive or counterproductive. But
Yeah, the respectfully part is really important.
yes. But thank you very much, everyone, for joining us as we continue to finish the impossible game. And we're excited to have you guys with us for the future and for the present.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.